Good day, everyone. Today, let's discuss Mesolithic Era. After about 10,000 BCE, the climate gradually became warmer again. Many of the big animals went with the cold weather to the north. Some animals such as mammoth, elk, woolly rhino, and bison became extinct, likely due to climate change and possibly also human hunting, which impacted the food sources available to contemporary hunter-gatherers. Gradually, the Netherlands was covered with forests which were rich in animals and plants. These changes were the beginning of a new age, the Mesolithic era. Mesolithic is a word that comes from the two Greek words meso meaning middle and lithos meaning stone. It is an archaeological term describing specific cultures that existed between the Paleolithic with its chipped stone tools and the Neolithic with its polished stone tools. While the start and end dates of the Mesolithic age vary by geographical region, it dates approximately from 10,000 BCE to 8,000 BCE. During the Mesolithic age, humans lived in caves made of limestone to protect themselves from the cold. The Mesolithic men were nomadic hunters and gatherers. Their tools helped them to kill animals, access hard-to-reach branches, and dig for tubers and bulbs. They learned to be resourceful and made the most of their handy equipment out of the remains of the animals they killed. The flesh and meat were used as food while the other parts of the animals' bodies had varied uses, like their hide was used for clothing, teeth were used as jewelry, and bones were transformed into weapons. In this era, humans learned that they could use other natural elements like wood, grass, clay, flint, reeds, and stones to make new tools and weapons. One such peculiarity of this era was man's way of using more than one material for making weapons. Mesolithic tools were essentially sharpened wood, animal bones, ivory, deer horns or antlers studded with tiny chips of stones called microliths, a small pointed blade of stone used to make arrowheads, spears, and other weapons and tools. Microlith was a crowning achievement in stone tools made by chipping because it was so light that hundreds of microliths could be made from a single pound of stone. They were fixed wooden or bone shafts with resin and probably twine. Their tools became sharper, and because of this, slices became more definite. There are important facts related to the Mesolithic age. Some Mesolithic settlements were villages of huts. Others were walled cities near rivers and other bodies of water. During this period, they began to use pelts to make temporary housing, which could be collapsed and taken with them like tents. Hunting and gathering vegetables are the two main occupations of Mesolithic people. More and more dependence on the vegetable was probably one of the reasons behind forcing human communities to have fixed settlements from the Mesolithic period onwards. Mesolithic people continued with intensive hunting, while others practiced the initial stages of domestication. They domesticated animals, wild dogs such as jackals, and attached themselves to human settlements. They became valuable to men in hunting and in guarding property and alerted them of dangers. During this period, the Homo sapiens diet changed, becoming more meat-based. It is believed that the increased eating of meat developed early man's brain. Mesolithic hunter-gatherers used bows and arrows. After the Ice Age, most of the landscape was covered in forest, and it would have been easier to fire an arrow than throw a spear. especially because the animals were smaller and faster in the Mesolithic too. One of the most important inventions of the Mesolithic era people is related to the throwing bat, the so-called boomerang, which was made of a bent or flat piece of wood like a reaping hook that could fly up to 150 meters. They invented many new tools, including the tranchee adze, a carpentry tool designed to make fishing platforms, boats, and perhaps houses. It is made to be resharpened by napping a crosswise plate from the working teak. The Mesolithic also saw greater use of hafted picks. Since many Mesolithic people lived along the shores of rivers, lakes, and seas, fish was their main food. They invented the fishing hook and numerous types of nets. They made burin, a type of handheld lithic flake with a chisel-like edge, which prehistoric humans used for engraving or for carving wood or bone. They learned how to hollow out logs to make boats and canoes for transportation using adzes and chisels made of antlers or bone. However, making oars and nets was a skill they learned much later. Another notable Mesolithic advancement was the first crude pottery made of sun-baked clay. Pots were used to store food and water. They also created leatherwork for clothes, basketry for storage and carrying. That's all about Mesolithic era.